video today. I am just doing some desserts for this video. Tomorrow we are having our Thanksgiving lunch at work, and I am baking pecan pies. The real deal. The full fat, the full sugar. It's my grandmother's recipe. And I'm not going to eat any of that because one piece of pecan pie would, probably be 15 points. I don't even know what it would be. I don't even know if I want to try to put it in my calculator just to see. So I'm going to make 2 pecan pies to take to work tomorrow for that. But for myself and some other people who are more, diet sensitive and don't want to overeat necessarily, I'm going to make some of my mini pumpkin pies in the little wontons. And then I also have a mini pecan pie recipe as well for the wontons. The pumpkin pie wontons are 1 point per pie, and I think that the pecan pie ones are 2 points per pie. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you how I make the real pecan pies and the wontons as well. And I have shown the pumpkin wontons in one video before, but I've not shown the pecan pie wontons, and they're really good. The pecan pie wontons are made with just a half a cup of chopped pecans, 2 eggs, 1/4 of a cup of sugar-free maple syrup, 1/4 of a cup of Monkfruit Sweetener, and 2 wonton wrappers per muffin tin. You will put these in the muffin tin and then you just scoop the filling into it. So that's how you're saving all of the points on that. The pecans is really the only thing that adds, I think, that additional point per pie. And then for the mini pumpkin pies, it's the same thing. It's 2 wontons per muffin tin. And then we're going to use a whole can of pumpkin, an egg, a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, some monk fruit sweetener, some Swerve Brown Sugar replacement, and 1/4 of a cup of almond milk. And that's all that goes in that. And then for the real deal, per pecan pie, and I'm going to be doubling this because I'm making 2, but per pie, it's 1 cup of sugar, 3/4 of a cup of light corn syrup, salt, vanilla, butter, 3 eggs, cornmeal, which that's my secret ingredient to thicken up the actual pecan pie. If y'all make them, that is one of the most difficult things, is to make sure that the center is going to thicken up enough. So cornmeal is what my grandmother used, and you can't tell that it's in there. And then a cup of chopped pecans. So I'm going to double all of that because I have 2 pie shells. I'm going to take 2 of those, and that will have to bake for about an hour. So I'm going to start with the mini pecan pies because those take the least time to bake. And then while those are in the oven, I'm going to make the pumpkin wontons. And then while those are in the oven, I will mix up the stuff for the regular pecan pies. And then I can just throw them in. They'll cook for about an hour, and then I'll pull them out. I will not cut them or anything tonight. They have to set overnight and come to a complete cool. So we will cut those in the morning before I go to work and see if they firm up in the center. It always makes me nervous because I hate it if I cut it and it's goopy and not firm. So wish me luck. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, click like down below, and let's jump into this video. I think I've ranted long enough on my ingredients, so we'll get into it. Okay guys, I hope that you can see okay from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is place 2 wonton wrappers in each muffin tin. We're doing the pecan pie wontons first, and what you want to do is kind of crisscross them. This is probably the thing that takes the longest. So I'm just going to do this first and just kind of set it to the side, and I've just sprayed it with some olive oil spray just so that they don't stick. But you crisscross them like that, and then it makes just like a little pocket so that we can put our filling inside there. Okay, now that I got the wontons in there, let's mix up the filling and get it in there and get it in the oven. So for this you need 2 eggs. And I always like to put my eggs in first just to make sure that I don't get any shells in there, or so that I can get them out. if I need to. And then I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, so for this you're going to need 2 eggs, which I have my 2 eggs in there already. And then you're going to need 1/4 of a cup of Monkfruit Sweetener. You're going to need 1/4 of a cup of sugar-free maple syrup, which I just have this generic version here that I'm going to use. And then you're going to need 1/2 cup of chopped pecans. And that's literally it. I'm going to mix it up really well, and it says to put 1 tablespoon of filling into each wonton wrapper, so that's what I'm going to do. And then you don't have to cover this or anything. We're just going to put this in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes at 350 degrees. I'm going to use my little glass tablespoon scoop like this. I think it might be easier to put it in there. It's been a long time, I mean a year since I've made these. I can't remember. Okay, there they are. They are ready to go in the oven, again at 350 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes. Okay, so the pecan pie wontons are in the oven, and now we're going to make the mini pumpkin pies. My battery died on my camera, so I went ahead and put the wontons in the muffin tins because I just showed you how to do that with the other ones. And I have already put my egg in here. This calls for 1 can of pumpkin, which I'm just using this 100% pure pumpkin by Libby's. You want to make sure that you get just the pure pumpkin. Do not get the pumpkin puree that has anything in it. 1 egg, which is in there. I'm going to use 1/4 of a cup of a 1/2 cup of the brown sugar, and then 1/4 of a cup of the Monkfruit Sweetener. If you can see that, Monkfruit Sweetener. And then this is just the Swerve that I use, which both of these are 0 points. And then 1/4 of a cup of unsweetened almond milk, which I'm just going to use this unsweetened vanilla almond milk, and a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I need to get that out. Pumpkin pie spice, you can't forget that. So I've got my egg in there. I'm going to go ahead and put in my pumpkin. Then I'm going to put in 1/4 of a cup of this Monkfruit Sweetener. And while I've got this little 1/4 cup thing here, I'm going to go ahead and do my 1/4 cup of almond milk as well. And then I'll get my 1/2 cup out for the Swerve. And I am going to kind of pack this down because I definitely want that sweetness in there. If you don't like it as sweet, then you could, loosely pack it, I guess. Okay, and then I just need a teaspoon of the pumpkin pie spice. And that's everything. I'm just going to mix this up, and then this one says to put 2 tablespoons in each wonton. Now what I do is I will go through and put 2 tablespoons, and then if I have any left over, I'll just kind of fill them in if some look like they have more or less than others, and just try to make them as even as possible. So here's the pecan pie wontons fresh out of the oven. It just went off. So I'm going to set these over here and let them cool. Okay, so I have these ready to go in the oven. You do have to cover these with aluminum foil and bake for 20 minutes, and then you remove the aluminum foil and bake them for an additional 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm going to get my aluminum foil, and I'm going to put these in the oven, set it for 20 minutes, and then we'll take the aluminum foil off and let it finish cooking. Okay guys, we are going to start mixing up the real pecan pies now. So I'm doubling this recipe, so I'm going to need 6 eggs. Okay, so I have my 6 eggs in here, and you want to just lightly beat them, not all the way, and then you want to go ahead and add your sugar. And then you need to mix this up really well before you add the rest of the ingredients. you don't go ahead and mix that sugar and eggs, it won't combine as well, because I have forgotten before in the past. And so there you can see that's mixed pretty well. Then you just add everything else except for the pecans, and I save the cornmeal, which is my thickener, for the last step before the pecans, and then I basically will just add the cornmeal into it until I can feel it whenever I'm stirring kind of thicken up. The recipe calls for a tablespoon of cornmeal, but it really takes a little bit more than that. So this calls for 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, so I need to do a 1/2 teaspoon. I'm just going to kind of guess. Lots of times I'll just kind of sprinkle it into my hand. And it calls for 1/4 a stick of butter, so I've already melted 1/2 a stick of butter. I'm going to put that in there. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, so I'm going to put a full teaspoon. I always have to remind myself that I'm doubling the recipe. And then 3/4 of a cup of black corn syrup, so I'm going to need 1 1/2 cups. So I think that gets everything except for the cornmeal and the pecans. Sugar, Karo syrup, salt, vanilla, butter, eggs. So yeah, I'm going to mix this up well. I'm going to grab my cornmeal, and I'm just going to use regular Martha White self-rising cornmeal that I have. And I do keep my cornmeal in the freezer. I don't know if any of y'all do that, but any flour, cornmeal and stuff like that, I just keep it in the freezer, and it keeps well. It keeps any bugs from ever getting into it. So if you have an issue with that, put it in the freezer. And again, this calls for at least 2 tablespoons of cornmeal. So I'm going to kind of start with 2 heaping tablespoons. I know I'm going to need more than that. I've made these enough times. But as soon as you start to stir that in, you can kind of feel it starting to thicken. See, I can just tell that it's still too runny. If I was to do it like this, I would wake up in the morning and the middle of the pies would be gooey, which is what you don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and add in some more cornmeal. Probably going to do 2 more tablespoons. And I've been making these since I was a little kid, and I've just learned over the years, if you don't want runny pies, put plenty of cornmeal in there. See, I can tell that, I don't know if you can tell on the screen, it's feeling pretty thick now. I need to take the aluminum foil off my pumpkin pies. I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the pumpkin pies uncovered. And so they only have, or the pumpkin wontons, they only have about 10 minutes left, 8 minutes now. I did a little bit of cleanup real quick. So I think that this is good on the cornmeal. It feels nice and thick. And now I need to add in 2 cups of chopped pecans. And you do mix it up right into the mixture, and they kind of rise to the top. Okay, that's it, that's ready. I'm gonna go to my freezer in the garage and grab my pie shells. Okay, so I grabbed my pie shells. These are just the Kroger brand, and it really doesn't matter what brand you use, but you wanna just make sure that you get traditional, not deep dish. If you get the deep dish, then it may never firm up. Even though I swear years ago the traditionals were not as deep as what they seem to be now, but I mean, these are okay. The deep dish is a lot deeper, and it just will hold too much of that. I probably will have a little bit of that left over. We'll see. But it always seems like sometimes, even though I double the recipe, I still have some of this left over. I will put as much of it in there as I can without overflowing it.
Don't take it personal, I ain't lying, I ain't hiding, I've been grinding, multiplying. I've been trying to get my weight up, staying prayed up. meditating and taking time away. You always posting up pictures, trying to look like you winning. I'm writing rhymes in the kitchen, soaking in moments we live in, yeah. You got the nerve to be on me, faking your life for the IG. If you got my number, don't add me, cause baby, I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus.
Okay, so there they are. They're ready to go in the oven. This little crust on this one's a little pushed in, which that drives me crazy, to be honest, but it'll be fine. Sometimes once you go to cut them, the corners will kind of crumble a little bit anyway. And these are not the prettiest pies that you will ever make, but these are delicious. I remember years ago I made these pecan pies when I worked in a grocery store. My boss was like, that is the ugliest thing that I have ever seen. And then he tried it and he was like, but those taste really damn good. It's the best thing I've ever eaten. So anyway, they, you know, some people really like to place the halves on top and make them aesthetically pretty, but I'm really more concerned about how they taste, and this is just the recipe that I've always used, and it's always been a winner, so you can't go wrong with it. It's delicious, trust me. I'm not going to eat any of it though. I'm going to eat the wontons. Okay, I'm going to check on these pumpkin pie wontons. I think they're about done. Okay, so here are the wontons. I'm just letting them cool in the muffin tins. Here are the pumpkin pie wontons. And these come out to 1 point each. And then here are the pecan pie ones. And I believe they are 2 points. I need to grab my phone because I have the recipe in my phone from last year so that I can verify that. But these have turned out pretty crispy on the bottom. These have been cooling for a while, and I just took these the pumpkin ones out, so they're not really as set yet as they need to be. This is just a much denser filling. That's why it takes longer for these to bake. And you have to cover them or else the wontons will burn, because they do tend to brown up pretty quick. But overall, these look good. What I'm going to do is just store them in a Rubbermaid container, but I am going to take like a 3-tiered thing so that I can display them, and then I'm going to show you what I like to serve them with. So this is what I like to put with these, and you just put a little squirt of either one of these on top, and these are 0 points as well for I think 5 grams, which each one of these would not really take that much, but this makes for a good little topping. My favorite is actually the coconut milk non-dairy one. And I'm also taking a fat-free one. I do not have any regular Ready Whip to take, so if anybody at work wants that, then they're out of luck, but they can just eat the real pecan pie. So this is for everybody that wants a treat but doesn't want to spend a lot of calories or points. Nobody else at work does Weight Watchers but me that I'm aware of. And this I will also take to any family things if we have them this year, so that I have dessert, or I will just make them if I have something here at my house. We haven't really decided yet. Okay guys, here is a close-up of the pecan pie wontons. Sorry, my shadow's getting in the way. And then the pumpkin pie ones, I'm just going to store them in this Rubbermaid container, and then I have a little 3-tiered tray. It's actually a Christmas tray, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to take to work to display them on, and then I'm fixing to pull the pecan pies out of the oven, and those will just set. I'm going to put a towel over them overnight, and I will cut those in the morning once they are completely cool. Okay, and here are the 2 pecan pies. They look delicious. I always, try to feel. They won't be completely firm, but you don't want them to be too squishy, I guess. So these feel pretty good. They've been in the oven for about an hour or so. I think they're done. I'm just going to cover them with a towel and let them sit here overnight. And hopefully they are firm when we cut into them in the morning. We shall see. Okay guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you got some good ideas, whether you want to make the real pecan pie or whether you want to make something that you can kind of stay within your points during the holidays. I know that's a big stressor for some people. I'm really not that worried about it. I will eat whatever on Thanksgiving and on Christmas. But one thing I try to avoid is sugar. So that's one reason I like to take desserts. And I can have one of each of those pecan pies, and pecan wontons and pumpkin wontons, and be just perfectly satisfied with that, just as I would if I ate a real slice of pecan pie or pumpkin pie. So And again, it's personal preference. You might not care if you eat the sugar or whatever, but I will enjoy whatever of the meal that I want to. I basically will just get, you know, quite a bit of turkey and then just like a scoop of all of the sides that I want. And no, I'm not going to count those points. I'm not really going to worry about it. Again, I do like to have a low point dessert just because then I feel like I'm not overdoing it as much. So anyway, if you like this video, please click like down below, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any time that I upload. I usually try to upload 3 to 4 videos per week, and I'll be happy to have you here and join the family. So thank y'all so much for joining in. I will see you in the next video.